Paul Perry's here. We're going to talk about biosolids. We're going to talk about Sanctuary County for the unborn. That's an awesome deal. And Second Amendment items. So there'll be more in the future, but right now we're just going to discuss it. We're going to be two guys sitting around the table talking about bio sludge is what I call it. So without further ado, here's Paul Perry right after a word from our sponsors. Thank you.
Gyro Signs is your best source for wide format printing, industrial signage, and safety sign needs. Gyro Signs has been in business for over 16 years. Before your order is placed, we will send over digital artwork that you can view before approving your order. We have what's called a no surprise clause. This means you'll know exactly what your bill will be before we print anything, so there are no surprises. Check out our website and email us for further action, gyrosigns.com.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Jones again, and I didn't advertise this, but joining me tonight is Commissioner Precinct 3 here in Ellis County, Paul Perry. He's up for re-election, and he does have an opponent. Paul and I go at least a couple of decades back. We've known each other. Paul grew up here, and I'm just going to have him kind of just say just a little tad about himself and his pedigree for Ellis County, if you would. So,
well, sure. I'm fortunate to be an eighth generation Texan, and family moved to Midlothian in 1964. I was very young at the time, and 3 generations of my family moved to the Midlothian area all at once. I used to say it was 3 miles south of Midlothian. Now it's the middle of Midlothian, and
it's grown a lot.
Yeah, it absolutely has. I'm a 1978. I call myself a vintage graduate of Midlothian High School.
I'm a 78 graduate.
I'm a 78 graduate, and I graduated from Baylor University. And I was fortunate to have that opportunity where I met my wife, and we lived back in Dallas County for 3 or 4 years. But basically, I've spent most of my life in Ellis County, and I've watched the growth. And in most cases, I applaud the growth. But I'm here to guard people's lifestyle, their property rights, and I'm a conservative, and I think I bring a good, strong conservative voice to our Commissioners Court.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, now your hands were kind of tied for several of those years in the Commissioners Court, and I witnessed it firsthand, and I've witnessed it online, and hopefully some of these people have witnessed it as well.
I appreciate that, but even in those first few years,
got a lot done.
I got a lot done, and sometimes you have to do things by putting things on the agenda and making sure that people have to take a recorded vote on them. And one thing we got done is, when you tune into Commissioners Court and you watch the live streaming or you watch the audio video recordings of Commissioners Court, and sometimes they're a little hard to get to, but if you do a search online, you can find it, and you can go to the county website, and it's a little easier. We keep on getting better and better about it. The audio video was something that I pushed really hard for and made happen, and the rest of the court agreed at some point with that, but I kept on pushing until it happened. And then the other thing is being able to address each agenda item by topic. And I think that was very important, because in those days you had to address an agenda item, but you were only allowed to do it at the beginning of the meeting, and you weren't really part of the discussion that way.
It doesn't make any sense either.
And I thought it was rude, and I thought it was totally unnecessary, and so I pushed that through as well, and I'm glad the rest of the Commissioners Court went along with me at that time. But I got those 2 things done right out of the gate.
Now, Paul, I know, being your friend, that you're a staunch conservative.
Absolutely.
Mean, you're a staunch Texan as well. I mean, you're really interested in the history of Texas. You feel like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me like your personality is the type that you're standing on shoulders of the giants of Texas.
Thank you.
And you're not wanting to, I guess, tarnish that history, that ancestral type of Texan, but still be able, with your education and you're intelligent. I mean, obviously, you're 10 times more smarter than I am.
No, I don't know about that.
When I start cussing, it's because that's all I got.
Well, yeah, well.
So, I'm probably one of your strongest supporters.
Thank you.
And I know there's a lot of people that follow me or supporting of me will vote just simply because Mike likes you.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be so misled. I mean, I know who you are. I know the person you are. And it's like I told Julissa last night, that you don't think about your answer. You speak from the heart. And it's hard to question somebody or to design questions for somebody who will answer from the heart. So that's why this is kind of informal.
Sure.
But I want people to know Paul Perry, not Commissioner Perry, but Paul Perry, the commissioner. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and people need to know that I have immense respect for you and the way you've dealt with some challenges within the system. And I had a brush with that, but nothing like what you went through, and the courage that you exhibited, and just the tenacity. I think it's befitting a Marine, and I really admire that.
Well, thank you, sir. Some people have asked me to ask you certain things. Let's go right into the biosludge issue. Give us a little bit of Reader's Digest. How did that even freaking happen, and what is it?
Well, a lot of people think it's just human waste, but a little bit of research online, and you will understand that there is industrial waste in that, and there are chemicals that I can't even pronounce. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad chemicals, but I think in this case, when you're dealing with industrial waste, there are some potential hazards there. Plus the fact...
Well, no one thought that baby powder back in the day was going to turn into cancer. So
absolutely.
What do they know about these industrial chemicals that they're putting in there?
Well, I think there's a potential for genetic harm, and the persistency of a lot of this. Plus, there are a lot of heavy metals in it and those kind of things. And until they can clean that up, I don't think we need to talk about introducing that into Ellis County. I know some people were using it for fertilizer, and some people claim there's a short-term benefit. But at the same time, there was also the detrimental effect. I've had several realtors tell me that they lost sales because the stuff was being applied in an area where there were residential homes downwind.
We want to live like around it.
Yeah, and one realtor told me about going out to close, and they were in the final steps on closing on a large home, good property. And then all of a sudden, the lady of the house shows up and thinks they have a septic problem at the house and starts raising questions. And then they found out it was because of biosludge application in a nearby pasture. And the fact is that there are other realtors and people and homeowners that were concerned, if I go to sell my property, is this a disclosure I have to make? So, I think that
I think there ought to be a disclosure on the crops.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to know if I'm eating something that was fertilized with human waste and heavy metals or industrial. They have to put on the label, what chemicals that they intentionally put in there.
Right.
But
and in a small way, I'm involved in agriculture. I have some cows, and I try to make a little money off of them. Occasionally, I produce a little small hay crop, and I grew up working cows. I grew up around agriculture. My uncle was a rancher. I've worked on ranches in South Texas and near here. I remember him kicking me out of bed one morning, and we went out to Rio Vista, and we worked cows all day. I'm pro agriculture and I'm pro property rights. But if I'm pro property rights to be consistent, I have to be pro everyone's property rights.
Right.
And applying this particular material, there are different agencies of the government that have investigated the EPA on this, and they say, EPA, you may see this as okay, but the Office of, I think it's Office of Independent Counsel, said the EPA doesn't have enough personnel to adequately police the program and adequately understand the composition of all the biosludge being applied in the United States. And so I think until we get that, and I'm the last one saying we need more employees at the EPA or any federal agency, but when you're dealing with something that is potentially hazardous, that contains all these,
That's when we do need the employees.
yeah, that's when we do need focus on some things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't want them guessing that it's going to be okay. This is not going to affect me in my lifetime. I'm 60 years old. You know, I hope to have a couple more 20 years
Sure.
maybe ahead of me, but it's going to affect. And I hit on this all the time. It's the legacy that we leave. It's not our name. It's not the car we drove. It's the legacy that we had left, and we're going to be remembered, right or wrong,
Right.
good or bad,
Right.
about our legacy.
Well, no one's ever called me a radical environmentalist. I'm certainly not one. But
Yeah.
the fact is that in 2014, or actually 2013,
This is what started you on this journey.
Yeah, I was led down this road by some very conservative residents of this county that were living on rural properties, some of them that were farmers and ranchers themselves, and they said, Commissioner, would you come out and look at this material that's on the road? Commissioner, would you come out and look at this material that was on the ditch? And they found out that I went to Commissioner's Court and we requested, and it was all we could do under state law after I visited with our land commissioner, Jerry Patterson at that time, who was very helpful in helping.
Former Marine, by the way.
Yeah, former Marine, Aggie, and he was very helpful in helping me negotiate the bureaucracy. And I went to TCQ and different agencies, and you know, we found out that they weren't happy with the level of authority they had in some cases with it, because they were questioning what's really in it. And then when I went out in the agricultural areas, I talked to people that, you know, use chicken manure on the property. Well, chicken manure doesn't contain the same chemicals and hazards in it.
Right.
It actually, for a few days, has a worse odor, but it's not as persistent. And my thing is, if it's a common agricultural odor and it's a common agricultural practice, that's none of my business in lots of ways.
Yeah.
But the fact
Property
is,
rights,
yeah,
again.
yeah. When we're talking about something that's human based and also might contain these other chemicals because of storm drainage and that kind of thing, that might be my business. So I went out and inspected, and I gathered samples, and I took samples to different people, and I said, here's what the deal is. And one day in Commissioner's Court, I opened up a sample before Commissioner's Court even started. And we started talking about this issue real seriously at that point. And you know, we requested full enforcement. When I did, the delivery company was put under extra scrutiny, and they paid some fines and those kind of things. And I need to differentiate between the delivery company and the source. The source was Trinity River Water, as if my memory is correct. The delivery company was called Renda. And, you know, Renda was fined for delivery practices and allowing piles to hang around too long and doing different things. And so Trinity River Water Authority's manager, who I'd already talked to on the phone, because I went to the trouble to call him and said, hey, this is a problem down here. We're a suburban county. This is not as rural as it used to be. So therefore, y'all might want to review your practices here. And he called me up on a Saturday. And I frequently work on a Saturday. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it's just a practice I've had forever as a professional. And he calls me up and he goes, Commissioner, and I said, oh, and I saw who it was, and I said, it's nice to see you're working on a Saturday. And he said, well, I'm actually in your county. And that really surprised me. I said, well, what's going on? He said, I'm going to my office Monday morning. I'm terminating my contract with the delivery people. And I said, oh, why is that? And he said, well, I think there's some delivery issues here. And he said, we've had our attention drawn to some things by enforcement. And then he also said, y'all are just too large of a county for this anymore. He said, we're not going to come back till we have a product that is less noxious. And so they have kept their word, and to my knowledge, they haven't been back to the county. Unfortunately, I think it's Tarrant County is now delivering on the edge of the county. And I've had a report they delivered in a rural area that actually was in the city of Midlothian last summer. I haven't been able to confirm it, but I've had that report.
Well, you know, you're not going to advertise that we're bringing, you know, baby crap into your city.
Right.
Because I'm sure there's some kind of monetary gain. to either the farmer or to the person, probably both. You know, I mean, obviously
Sure.
they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a monetary gain in there. And I'm like you, I don't want government all up in everybody's business, but I think when it comes to laboratory issues, health, world health issues,
Right.
that I think needs to be on file, and it needs to be checked all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could care less if they go out there and measure the asphalt in the roads. I could care less if they go, your culvert's 18 inches instead of the
metropolitan counties to our north to deal with their waste issue. But you know what? They need to pay the money. They need to invest the capital to deal with their waste issue.
Yeah, and I would even go so far to say, well, let's let the voters decide. I don't know what we didn't get the camera stopped. I should have a timer down here, but then that would require me to think ahead. So I didn't have that. We're talking with Commissioner Paul Perry, and some of you might not know that one time Paul was the Justice of the Peace right here in Midlothian, Precinct 4, Justice of the Peace. And I was a young, just retired Marine that just started with Midlothian Police Department. And I really didn't like him at that time because I had a chip on my shoulder. I've told him this before. I'm an honest guy. Paul and Paul was different too. I mean, you've changed a ton as well. I think we both kind of mellowed out.
Yeah, we mellowed as we aged.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I remember when I first ran for constable that I was floored when you called me and we had lunch up at that Mexican place up there in Cedar Hill.
Right.
Matt's?
Yeah, Matt's. Yeah.
And, after the knowing you as JP and me as, Lance Corporal,
Right.
for lack of a better word, it was pleasant. Then
Sure.
we kind of meshed, and we've been friends ever since.
Absolutely.
And good honest, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm a strong supporter of yours. I've told a while ago that you do have an opponent. We're not going to mention names of opponents here.
Absolutely.
That's not our deal.
Right.
But what I do want to say is I have nothing against that man. He's from all I understand, he's a great guy. But I came up in the school of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And out of all the precincts in this county, Precinct 3 has got the right representation in there. They have the guy that goes to work every day. They got a guy that goes to every meeting. They got a guy that's always thinking about the people that he's representing. And I see this. I know it sounds corny to some people but this man actually, when he says that he's going to do the job, he actually does the job.
Thank you very much.
And you're considerate of that, and you're conscientious of that, and you can't say that a lot about a lot of elected individuals, whether it's Ellis County, it's Tarrant County, it's California, whatever. But
sure,
you put on your cowboy hat and your boots and your 6-shooter, and you go to work every day, and you fight it out, and go home, and take orders from your wife, and then you go to bed.
Well, I used to literally wear boots every day. When I was a JP, I did, and a lot of people don't know I had a roping accident, and I was working when I was 17 and a half, and the cow charged a horse I was on and nearly knocked me off the horse, but the rope wrapped around my leg, and I couldn't get to my knife fast enough, and I came off and have a meniscus issue with my left knee, and it's a constant management issue, and I stay in the gym and try to keep it strong and all that. And,
hey, you know what? There's a strong
issue.
reason why women live longer than men.
I think it's amazing they live longer than men when they know men. But
because they don't, when was the last time you saw a bunch of girls jumping off the roofs of houses?
Yeah,
they don't do that. But
a little bit better long-term judgment, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're always older,
But
so we covered the biosludge issue. Can you explain a little bit what a commissioner does? They all know that a commissioner is a road and bridge guy, and they fix bridges. This is the misconception out there. The people who, who I say work for a living, they saddle up here in Midlothian or Italy, and then they drive to Dallas and they bust their butt and then they fight that traffic all the way home.
You bet.
They think that they really don't know what a commissioner does, and as long as it ain't broke, they don't even care about it.
Well, we're the trustees for the county, and we function almost like a corporate board. And so we are responsible for almost every expenditure the county makes, whether it's in the jail or in law enforcement or the courts that we provide court space for. We deal with indigent health care, which we're required to by state law. We deal with indigent defense, which is also another requirement for people that are
we
in
covered
trouble
that
with the
last
courts.
night.
We are responsible for most of our expenditures, and some of it's mandated by the state. But even when it's mandated by the state, we're responsible for how it's done. And so it's a weighty thing to be a commissioner anywhere in the state of Texas. And a lot of people don't realize every county in the state of Texas has 4 commissioners, 1 county judge, and that's called the county court.
Yeah.
And they are the ones in every county making county government expenditure decisions.
Now, when you say making county government expenditures, are you saying that y'all meet and then you have to have so many people at a, can you kind of describe briefly how does the commissioner handle the expenditures?
Okay, well, we meet in court, and one of the first things we will do is approve expenditures that are about to occur and checks that are about to be cut.
Ongoing expenditures?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's if it's a regular ongoing expenditure, there's a little bit of a caveat there, but really it's best if we approve those before they happen, and that includes salaries.
Yeah, you guys have to vote on that every payday.
Absolutely, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, and just regular bills, the electricity bill, the gas bill, those kind of things, they have to be approved. And then all the other things we talked about that have to do with the court system and law enforcement, we approve all those expenditures. You guys, if you don't need cars, we approve that.
Yeah.
I've always been a champion of making sure y'all have up-to-date equipment, and I have a heart for the JPs and the constables because I think sometimes they're ignored, but I have a heart for the sheriff's department. My dad was a retired Dallas police officer, and he left me in 2015, and he's no longer around. But I was raised in a law enforcement household, and I know about those stresses, and it's not easy. I remember Dad working late nights. I remember him working undercover. I remember him working as a detective, and I just remember the stress my father was under day in and day out. And I am always going to be sympathetic to any reasonable request by law enforcement.
Yeah, you've always been a champion for law enforcement. Not so much on the constable side, but it's not because those issues haven't come up.
Right.
We kind of fly low, and we allow the sheriff's department to kind of get the riches, so to speak.
Right.
And I think predominantly that's all 4 of us do that. So.
No, the constables have always been very good about watching their budgets, and since I've been in office.
Yeah,
absolutely, and squeezing every penny. Yeah, y'all are good at it.
Yeah, I've never gone over a budget, and I doubt any of the other constables.
And I think the JPs are as well.
Really?
Yeah, and the JPs.
But does the commissioners have any? You don't have any control over. Here's a
good
question.
Let me state this for the record.
Yeah.
County commissioners have no law enforcement authority. People call me all the time and they want me to stop speeders and that kind of thing because
they call me wanting me to pick up branches. So
I think they've been watching Blue Bloods, and they associate us with some kind of other commissioner. We have budgetary control, but I can't tell you what to do. And that's one thing people don't understand about county government.
Texas county government.
Texas county government is we're very independent of each other, and it's by state law.
It's by Constitution.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you how to do your job. Right. You can't tell me how to do my job.
You can't get involved in my job.
We can tell each other when we vote, but that's it. And the only control the commissioners have over any elected official is once a year we look at the budget. Yeah, and hopefully that's never used as a stick inappropriately, because I
Right.
think every elected official I'm aware of is trying to watch their budget, and I think it's because we're answerable directly to the populace. You know, city government works differently. You've got a city manager,
Yeah.
and yes, you elect a city council and a mayor, but things are basically run by the city manager, and the policy decisions are made by that group.
Yeah.
Well, and they also set a budget, but the city manager is a big buffer. Even if we appoint, and we don't have this, but a county official who is to take over some of our functions administratively, and you can call them county coordinators or whatever, they exist in the state. I think right now they'd just be overhead we don't need. Okay, because I'm a fiscal conservative, and I think
Yeah.
right now we just
You
need
can't
to do that
employ them
job.
100% of the time. Don't hire 'em.
But even if we hire that kind of person, they do not have the same powers as a city manager. They do not.
No,
So-
no. The power of a commissioner, like I said, it's mainly for budgeting and the executive functions of a county. Way I look at it. But that being said, I can't enter a contract for my office. See, I'm elected. I have a sphere of authority that no other elected official can.
Right.
Ooh, sorry. However, that's all fine and dandy. But if you read the laws, I can't enter a contract to have telephone system, for example.
Right.
I can make a deal with the company for the contract, but then I got to bring the contract to the commissioners.
Right.
And then you guys, I have to have a majority vote for that contract to even happen. So, yeah, you've only got control over elected officials through the budgeting process, and yeah, like you said, it could be used as a stick. It has been in the past. It will be in the future.
Yeah.
You know, because you're dealing with personalities. But the power of a commissioner and the responsibility that is on y'all's shoulders is what people don't realize. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of people will say of commissioners like they say of police officers. You know, you're only a commissioner because you can't make your own living. You know, well, we know for a fact that you had a great, self-owned business.
Right.
leading up
I
to
had a
this.
good professional life in the financial sector, and I think that my financial background really helps to augment. It's
Oh,
a great addition
absolutely.
for our court.
It helps Trump. That's why I'm a Trump guy. I mean, I know there's other, but he's a businessman, and he can't be bought.
Yeah.
Paul Perry can't be bought.
Yeah, that's so.
know,
I
you
like
can
to
go
think
right
that
back to-
because, I haven't been, so
Yeah.
and I've had enticements at times, or do this or do that. I mean, I remember one time we had a former office holder in this county that wanted me to support them for state Republican chairman, and I'd already given my word to someone else that I would support them. This is internal Republican stuff, and I told them I wouldn't support them. And I said, I'd already given my word. And they said, well,
That's all you own.
yeah, they said, well, they'd get me down the road. And he did. He did. I ran for county judge when I was 38, and he made sure I didn't win, and he had the power to make that happen. But the fact is I'm glad I took that hit.
Yeah.
It made me a better man. I kept my word. I got hit for it. And then I went back in the private sector full time, and I did really well. I had the best 12, 13 years I've ever had in the private sector after I left the JP office and lost that county judge's race back in '98. And it was a good thing for me and my family to step back. And I've come roaring back in 2013, and I've been able to handle some things that I think as a less experienced office holder I wouldn't have been able to handle. One of the vows I made was to make sure the rate got lowered, the tax rate.
Yeah, let's talk about that. For y'all that don't know, the Paul Perry here, he ran on a campaign of being fiscally responsible. Fiscally, not physically, like that, but fiscally responsible. And he's held that line, even when it was difficult to hold that line. So when you started, what was the tax rate? Tell them what the tax rate was.
Well, the tax rate was about 41 cents.
41 cents.
Yeah, and now we're almost a nickel
Less.
less. The tax
I mean,
rate.
isn't it historical that tax rates go up?
Yeah, in a lot of counties that's true. And,
Right.
and I will say this, our county has never been the worst abuser on the rate, but we have set a new standard, I think, especially over the last few years. And, you know, we have a new county judge to work. Don't get any ideas,
I'm
Judge
going to
Little.
take that one out.
Yeah, take that out. But we have a new county judge we're working with. And, you know, it was a little easier maybe to get that rate reduction this time than it has been in the past. I still think it should have been a little more. And
Well, some is better,
yeah, absolutely.
right?
And the state government has put some new, you know, the state government is what really in a grand scheme tells county government what to do. We are directly responsible to state government. There's no such thing as a county charter. You know, in city government, you have a city charter, and within certain latitudes, they can change things. Well, we're directly under state government, and state government has decided that all local governments have to follow certain revenue caps on old property. So I kind of welcome that, because I think it's going to help to focus everyone on doing what's important in government, and not and taking a dim view of doing things that maybe we're not authorized directly to do. We can do them, but there's no direct authorization. And I'm a big believer the first thing government should do is protect our citizens from force and fraud.
Absolutely.
And recently, our county clerk, Crystal Valdez, and I'll give her credit for this.
Hey, Crystal.
Hey, Crystal. Came to us, and she said there is a new service that will help protect against title fraud, which has become a new thing to do in this technological
Oh, no,
age.
it wasn't new.
Yeah.
Because I was hitting on it back in 2000.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
But there's a new software program.
Oh, no, well, that
Yeah,
is new. But
yeah,
we had to do the...
Yeah, absolutely. You were right when you were hitting on it in the old days, but it was old days, a few years ago. Nowadays, it seems like time passes faster because technology is just changing our lives every seems like every 30 days.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, now there's a program to help with some of this more sophisticated title fraud that is going through the system. So we have an early alert system. Now, I can't guarantee it will work in every case, but I think
because it's data in and data out, right?
But we had to spend a little money for that. But to me, that was a very legitimate expenditure to make sure
For
government
the overall good.
Yeah, because government, if we're not helping to protect people from force and fraud, we're not doing our job.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if you're not protecting the people, the government notoriously won't take care of the people.
No, we're the government closest to the people, and I think we have an obligation.
Yeah. You know, and government has a way of jading some people. You know, I mean, I've done this 3 terms now, and you're working on you're going for your 3rd term.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to probably, and I'll speak for myself here, I'm probably going to be eyeing after this next term, I'm probably ramping somebody else up, you know, a younger person that has more, you know, the drive and, and so, because I mean, we're not going to be here forever, unfortunately, you know.
Right.
So we got to let the kids know what we stood on, and they're going to have to add to that. So this is not a calling or a lifetime for me. I know I'm supposed to serve. That's how you take it. But I can go to work at the airlines. You can go to work back again.
Back in the private sector.
Back in the private sector. So, and it'd be a lot more lucrative, and in some instances, a hell of a lot less stressful. I know I'm talking about.
I get it, and you know, officers have that extra stress because every time you go serve papers, you don't know what you're dealing with. You know, and I might get the occasional later night phone call or early morning phone call. People know I'm an early riser, and if they have one of my cell phones, they know they can hit me.
Posting pictures of the sunrise. Okay. Commissioner, let's talk a little bit about. First, I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about Second Amendment, which is near and dear to both of us.
Absolutely.
In fact, I took a lot of heat because of my Second Amendment.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
And I'm still here. I'm still standing.
Still standing. Yeah.
And then I also want to talk about there's been such things as sanctuary of weapons, you know, to where the counties, you know, Virginia, I think, was in the news. They're, you know, almost rioting because they're cracking down on gun control in a state like that, for instance. Yet we have Oklahoma to the north of us that has no license to carry. You just which I'm a proponent of. I like
Yeah.
that idea.
I do too.
But right here, you guys, not too long ago, you determined and you made Ellis County a sanctuary for gun ownership, did you not? Or for
Right,
Second Amendment?
right. Well, I think I was concerned with the way some of the confiscation talk was going. Some of the things Mr. Beto said when he was running for senator. Some of the things going on in Virginia, and then some things I'd heard from even some Texas lawmakers. And I wanted to make sure that they knew in this large suburban county that we were very pro Second Amendment. You know, I used to tease my kids when we would be out canvassing for voters, you know, my larger adult children. I said, you know, when you're in Ellis County, you need to be very polite. You need to make sure your hands aren't in your pockets when you go to a door, you know, because people here are armed and they're armed for a reason. A lot of them came from somewhere else where crime was higher. And, you know, those citizens aren't going to tolerate crime here.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to.
yeah, and we are a very independent lot of folks, and I think our level of gun ownership is very high. There have been no surveys on that, nor should there be, because I think it's a private matter.
Yep, I think it is too.
But I am proud of my county. I think it is largely peaceful, and we don't have the crime of some other counties, because people know down here, if you're going to try to harm somebody, chances are they have the means to protect themselves, and if they don't, their neighbor does, and certainly our law enforcement is going to follow up. But I support the right to carry, and I support the right to be armed, because quite honestly, I used to watch Star Trek as a child, and I know that I can't beam in a police officer when I need one. You know, I mean,
that's right. And you're going to be on your own.
I'm going to be on my own, and a lot of us, and I don't care if you live in a nice little neighborhood like this one, or you live out in the boonies like me. You know, law-abiding citizens need the right to own, keep, and have on their person a firearm. I'm just where I am.
No
Absolutely.
government control.
Yeah, and I want to thank Gun Owners of America, because recently they endorsed me, because they, you know, the Gun Owners of America is kind of like the police dog of Second Amendment organizations.
Good.
You know, they'll put the bite on you if you're out of line. You know, they're very pro Second Amendment.
And they endorsed you.
And they endorsed me.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. You know, we managed to get the courthouse open to license to carry people. And I talk about the historic courthouse where there's only one real courtroom, and that's the Justice of the Peace Court.
I think I was instrumental in getting that place closed down. Now it's reopened.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I've only recently learned about that.
Yeah. I was kind of outnumbered on that vote. So what I made sure of is that the tax office in the back of our courts building was open to people with LTCs, because, you know, people still pay their taxes with cash in a lot of cases, and I use that as an argument that our citizenry shouldn't be disarmed when they're taking their cash in to pay their taxes. So,
well, you know how I am about gun-free zones.
Absolutely, I think they attract trouble.
Yeah, it's God's way of thinning the herd.
You know,
got me in a lot of trouble, but I
think that a gun-free zone outside of a court where there's a dispute. I think that and I'm talking about a court at law, I think that a gun-free zone attracts people who are willing to break the law, bring their firearm in, and settle some score.
Yeah.
And so you don't have anybody that can defend you.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, uniformed peace officers are a wonderful thing, but should one of them be injured, there needs to be a backup. And I think we have several instances of highway patrolmen out in the middle of nowhere, and that's probably one reason why we were able to pass the original concealed carry.
Helping them.
Is there were several instances of citizens helping an isolated sheriff's deputy or an isolated highway patrolman in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, right now we've lost I think they said 18 officers just in January.
Wow.
For you know from accidents and from guns. I'm moving on, young lady. So the next thing, because of the sanctuary city on the Second Amendment, I'm going to kind of springboard into the unborn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I realize that a constable, police officer, anybody that's running for local office locally here, we really don't have a reach, to stop abortions. That shouldn't be a platform that we run on. because to me it sounds like what people are running on that because they think that's what people want to hear when it has nothing to do with being a constable.
Right.
And there's whether I say yay or nay, I have no control over that other than a personal issue with me. But y'all went, and we have the same. I'm against abortion, obviously.
Sure.
But y'all took it a step further.
Well, we took a stand as a county, and Judge Little put it on the agenda, and I made the motion that we are a sanctity of life county. Now,
What does that mean, though?
Well, it means that we're on the record as being against abortion, and we're on the record as from taking the life of a child in the womb, and I think that's a good first step. I think we're going to try to get a contract with a provider of services to women that is a non-abortion provider, so that women can go for certain medical examinations, especially if they suspect they're pregnant, from a non-abortion provider. And we have state law that says we cannot give money to an abortion provider now. So we're being consistent with state law, but we also want to make sure that women that have financial reasons or maybe have an extreme reason for privacy,
Incestuous relationship.
yeah, they can go to a provider who will give them certain services to make sure that their baby is healthy in their womb. And I think that's very important.
I do too, because I know
Because the women that can afford other services, and I'm not a big government service person, but women that can afford other services, they're going to go to the privacy offered by their gynecologist, somebody they trust. These are going to be mostly low-income women or women who are in difficult circumstances that need to check on the health of their baby in the womb.
And I think that's that's the position that we're in. We're not in a position to. Well, I don't even know how to word that actually. So I'll just say we're in the position to help, because when we help people, man, you just sleep so good at night.
Absolutely.
I want to kind of bring that sanctity of life. All right, so let's reiterate the sanctity of life.
Well, let me say something that's a big part of Paul Perry's makeup. Okay, my father, as I said, was an officer, and he became an officer because he wanted to help people, and he had a basic motivation he shared with me later in life, and it's part of my psychology as well. I think it's my job to help protect people from bullies.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that we saw, I think, and people are recognizing increasingly about the abortion industry, is these people, ladies, are talked into this. It used to be in the old days, a lady got pregnant or a young woman got pregnant, and we talked about adoption or we talked about marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And there were some tougher circumstances there, but we still talked about adoption or marriage. When a lot of talk about abortion, it wasn't legal, and it wasn't acceptable to society and to the.
And a lot of girls got hurt.
Yeah, and a lot of girls got hurt, and they pay a price for it down the road psychologically and every other way. We know that. Well, I think if we protect innocent life, and I think that's one thing that we're all about, it's consistent that we believe people have a right to defend themselves.
Oh, yeah.
These things are consistent.
Yes.
And conservatives instinctively understand this, and a lot of liberals increasingly understand it. I run into liberals that are pro-Second Amendment and pro-life. And it's interesting because people are starting to say we have to protect innocent life. And I'm a conservative, and I come at this a different way, but I believe those issues are very consistent, and that Paul Perry got in this position because I don't want government running over people, and I want to provide services, necessary services, for people to get to work and do their thing.
To be the buffer between big government and
I think if you survey officers, a lot of times they are the young man or the young woman that get in this business, and they were somebody that somebody said, hey, when I'm off at work, protect the family. Or when I'm off at work, take care of your little brother. Or when I'm off at work, look out for your mom. Well, you say that to a 5-year-old, and they kind of believe it, right? Yeah. So a lot of those people, there was a survey done one time of law enforcement people. A lot of them got into that business because they had been programmed, they determined, as young people.
By dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one reason why I was attracted to running for Justice of the Peace a long time ago. I wasn't a law enforcement guy, but I was a guy that understood fair play, and I was a guy that could read the law, and I was used to working in a real regulated business.
Yeah.
So I thought I could bring something to Justice of the Peace Court. And now I think
you
bring
did a
something
great
to
job.
Commissioner.
Now, I was pissed off some of the time.
Were you now?
Because it didn't go my way. But,
Yeah.
and I want to hit on that just a little bit. I covered that with Lisa a little bit last night, that I don't want a judge. I don't want a DA that is Mike Jones's judge, Mike Jones's DA.
Right.
I want a judge that is for the people. And I know that how corny that sounds, but my wife and I had lived this, that I want the judge to raise his right hand and do what he's supposed to do. I want the DA to raise their right hand, and I want them to do what they take an oath for. Just like I will promise till my dying day, I'll honor my oath. But I don't want them to say, Mike Jones is a friend of mine, so we're gonna let that case go through.
Right.
No, that's not what I want at all. That's not what I want. We're supposed to protect the people. I want the right people in there, and that's why I'm supporting the right people, not for me,
Right.
but for the people who need it. And I think that's going to be a legacy for us. That's why I'm doing this. Is I'm not going to be here forever. We have the opportunity in this county right now to form it the way it needs to be formed. Get the people in there that are not corrupt. They're not susceptible to being in the system, so to speak.
Well, I have to deal with facts, and I've had people come to me that wanted me to cast a vote to even an old score, or because they had a story I couldn't verify. And I might have believed their story, but I really couldn't verify it, and I couldn't make policy based on what they were telling me.
Right. Yeah.
And that's one of the difficulties in public office is you not only want to be right, but you want to have verifiable facts to act on.
Trust but verify.
Yeah, and then you can be right.
Yeah.
And I want a judge that calls balls and strikes according to the law, according to mercy, because mercy plays a role, and certainly according to the Constitution.
Not just because Paul Perry's his friend.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. We need constitutionally minded conservatives in this county.
Absolutely.
And we need people that are putting those things before their own self-interest.
The constitutional shouldn't be a buzzword.
No.
No. But that's what it's turned in, and that's why I get so frustrated, and I know you do too.
Absolutely.
That's not, we're supposed to uphold the Constitution. Why are we going into people's pockets?
Right.
We know what a Terry versus Ohio, for those we know what a Terry frisk is.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, time and time again on TV, you watch these live PD shows or even the tape ones. They get a guy out of the car, they go right into his pockets.
Right.
And I'm always hollering, this is why, and no one's saying anything.
Absolutely.
That's even narrated by officers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm thinking, holy why are we, this is why people have a black thought about police officers, is because they got all this power.
Well, I think people have a negative opinion of law enforcement in some cases because of how they're portrayed on television, or they themselves have had a family incident or whatever, and they believe their family member. And in some cases they're right, some cases they're wrong.
Right.
But, I like to make this analogy all the time. A fireman shows up to a fire. The fire has no constituency. It has no family. 9 times out of 10, the fireman's going to be a hero. Officer shows up to a situation, and I get this. I've never been an officer, but I get it, having worked as a magistrate, having dad was a police officer.
50% of the people are going to be pissed.
Absolutely.
Out of every meeting.
Absolutely. And maybe sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not, but I think it's harder psychologically to be a law enforcement officer than a fireman.
It could be. I've never really had an issue being a cop. Psychologically, or
I think it wears on you more. I really do.
And it may.
let me say this: Midlothian is full of police officers that work in other jurisdictions.
Yeah.
It was probably the percentage was even higher when I was growing up here. And I knew a lot of Dallas police officers, kids that were going to school with me, and they moved in later than we did, but they started moving in junior high and high school and all that. I don't know of a single one of them that became a police officer. Everyone I know that went to government service, you know what they did? They're firemen.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't blame him, man. 1 day on, 2 days off.
Yeah.
Now, who designed that job?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Commissioner and friend,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much for coming in here and talking to these people. Hopefully they get some kind of feeling for you as a person. There's no way. I'm a fortunate man. I have contact with people that are in these positions, and so I can provide that avenue. I know who you are, but I can't tell everybody who you are.
Right.
They've got to be able to judge you just like I have to be able to judge you.
Absolutely.
So luckily me, I'm in a position where I can ask Julissa to come over, and because I'm elected too, okay, I'll go over. Whereas somebody else might not have that avenue. So I think this is awesome, this little format that we're doing, and I want to continue this, and we need to let people know what we're doing, and tell them thanks for fighting the traffic.
I appreciate the opportunity, Mike. We're both kind of like this old sign here.
Running rough.
Well, we're a little bit battle worn. There's a chip or two out of that sign because this is a sign that's been around a while. But I haven't been in office that long. I just completed my 7th year of service. But you can tell that sign has a chip or two on it, but it's still got structural integrity. And that's what I think about both of us. We still have structural integrity, and we're still ready to roll.
I will go to my grave with my name.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And you'll go to grave with your name. And
Absolutely.
I think what the people need to know is that they have my word, and I know they have your word, that above all else, I will not tarnish my Father's name.
Absolutely.
So they can accuse me all they want, but people out there that don't know if it's factual or not factual, just remember this.
Yeah.
I won't ever tarnish my Father's name.
I brought this up the other night, and I know everybody doesn't have this particular heritage, but mine is. In 1837, my great-grandfather, to the whatever power, was made a captain of Texas Rangers by President Sam Houston. And I know you're the same way I am. Going back as far as I can, I'm going to do the job.
Yes, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my grandfather's father was an outlaw from Texas.
Well, I probably had some of those.
That's why I'm a cop.
But I haven't looked those up yet.
You know what got me? My grandfather was an awesome guy. I have his old pickup out here. But my father, I never wanted to do everything I've done in my life. I've been, even to today, even though he passed away 2 years ago, was solely to make him proud of me. Even I'm 60 years old, so I'm still doing that.
Right.
Everything I do, I think about his face. Will he be disappointed in me?
Yeah.
And fathers, we are never going to disown our children. I mean,
Right.
we might not always agree with them, and we might hate some of the actions they do, right?
Right.
But I never wanted to disappoint. I wanted him to always be proud of me.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
He died when I was under indictment.
Oh man.
After
this is-
all those years, he never saw me, exonerated. Never.
Wow.
So I want everybody that's in the position that I'm in. If I ever have anything to help, I will fight that fight for them, so their father, will see that they're good people before they leave this earth. And I know my dad believed in me.
Yeah.
But
well, he's off to a higher reward, no doubt.
yeah,
And,
I miss him just like you miss your dad.
I don't know what he knows or what he doesn't know at this point, but I know he's probably happy, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I used to think he could read my mind.
Yeah.
Now that he's passed on, he's probably reviewing everything that I did.
Yeah.
Now I'm really going to get my butt chewed when I get up there.
Yeah, I hope they don't give my dad. I hope they don't give my dad film. I don't
Seal
want
that record.
Absolutely, seal the record.
Thank you, brother.
You bet.
All right.
Appreciate you. Appreciate this.
Thanks for stopping by. My name is Mike Jones. This is Commissioner Paul Perry. Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to watch this all the way to the end. I enjoyed it, but I'm part of it. So I mean, if it was dry, if it needs some kind of balance on my delivery or on the delivery of any of these guests, then please message me. Leave a message here on YouTube, Facebook. Message me. Don't call me at work. This is not a work deal. This is totally personal. I'm just fortunate because I'm in a position where these people trust me, and I can get them sometimes. I can get them to come talk and just be honest. I'm not going to bash anybody on here. I'm not going to take sides on here. This is just going to be just discussions. We'll try to keep it light. Maybe a cuss word once in a while in there. I'm going to do my best not to. I've got another special guest coming next week too that you're really going to like. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.